So, is tape dead? One of my favourite questions. This comes up, I think it comes up every single year. I get quite a few questions from customers around, is tape dead? Can I just archive this, put it in some cold storage? Funny thing about that cold storage, it's almost always using tape on the back end. So is tape dead? No, because you're probably still using tape, to be completely honest. And this is because the large providers, the providers such as your Googles, your AWSs, your Microsoft Azures, they all use tape in the background, and there's a really good reason for it. Tape doesn't need to be powered. Okay, so it provides a huge amount of capacity for archive data that you don't really need to get access to all that often. And it doesn't need to be plugged in. So whether you're using tape that you just put on a shelf because it's a backup, or whether you're using a large tape library, which is predominantly what a large amount of the HPC users, OCF's customers, and enterprise are doing. And the reason they're doing this is it allows for an incredibly cost-effective way of taking incredibly hot data, which are running on fast flash technology, NVMEs, SSDs maybe, okay, to be then tiered down to traditional hard drives or spinning rust, to then be exported and archived off into a media that doesn't break the bank, doesn't break the budget, but automatically fetched. Now, there's a lot of file systems, especially within the HPC space, parallel file systems, that leverage tape specifically for this purpose. It means you can spend your hundreds of thousands of pounds on an incredibly fast parallel file system, but then spend not quite so much to expand that file system, but also provide your backups. And we haven't even gotten onto the usage of backup or tapes in backups yet. We're just talking archival right now. So being able to push this data offline and bring it back can be slow. But technologies come on whereby you can now utilize enterprise software, and in fact a couple of open source projects out there that allows you to put a caching layer on front of your tape, which allows you to cache some of the more latest files that you're archiving off. So when you're trying to do a retrieval of that data, because it's archived off a little bit early, and trust me, it happens more than you think, it allows you to recall that data from either the SSD, flash, or spinning rust, which is sat in front of the tape. So now you end up with a file system where you've got a nice tiered structure, from fast acquisition storage to sort of slightly longer term to very, very long archival. But now you've got another bit of storage in front of that, which is tiering as well. It's like little babushka dolls, you know, and his turtle's all the way down, by the way. And this allows you to leverage your file system in such a way that we haven't been able to do before, especially when it comes into data management and being able to keep track of all this data, the lifetime of this data, what the value of your data is, and also where it currently is. If it's not being utilised immediately, do you really want that sat on very expensive NVMe layer, which you know, its cost per performance is much higher than other types of storage? So you want to be able to manage your data, look at your data, archive it off, put it in the right place at the right time, but be incredibly cost effective. Now we're talking backup with tape. Tape has quite a few advantages over the more modern ways of backing up onto either disk or into the cloud and that sort of thing. And it's It's something that the technology is having to catch up a little bit on the cloud side, but it pushes it into a different data format. It pushes it offline. So things like ransomware these days, there is a natural mitigation built into what people would consider the biggest flaw of a tape, which is the speed of retrieval. With tapes running at circa 400 megabytes per second these days, it's no slouch based on what it used to be. But when you're hit with things like ransomware attacks or malicious attacks, whether it's an insider or an outsider threat, most endpoint protection are able to detect this incredibly quickly. It's normally the human element to interact and to actually deal with it that's the slowest point. For the human element to stop it, well, if it's attempting to do something on your tape and you're a little bit slower than your endpoint to shut down that library or to disconnect it, well, because of how tape is architected, the risk to all of that data being compromised is a lot less. And that's without talking about the inbuilt anti-ransomware, anti-malicious attack software that is typically built into backup products these days. So whilst yes, I spoke about the human element, the slowness to react and that sort of thing, thankfully technology is speeding up. And that's why tape is still utilised today. There is one more sort of very clever, quite humorous analogy that people overlook with tape. It's not as heavy as hard drives or flash, and you should never underestimate the bandwidth of a DHL van full with a load of tape in the back. Trying to transfer that much data either over the wire or through traditional enterprise SAN units, storage units on servers can be quite difficult. Writing it to a tape library, extracting all those tapes out, boxing them up and shifting them is normally a lot more cost effective than anything else. This is exactly why the big cloud providers allow you to import your data like this, because they know it's cost effective. And it's also why services actually are still operational today, which will take those tapes and store them in an external vault for you, so you have a copy of your data. Hopefully that's just given you a couple of my thoughts on why tape isn't dead.